Hey everybody, welcome back to the live stream. Well, not even welcome back. I'd like to welcome you all to my first live episode of FactualityFM. This is your host, Douggie Fresh, as usual. Not in studio with me today, Alex. Miss you. Hope you're having a blast down at Bloomington. I'll show you this later on. So guys, basically what I wanted to do today was essentially to talk about the new video that Paul Joseph Watson put up, essentially exposing Gary Johnson for to being the complete idiot that he is. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, "Hey DJ, aren't you a libertarian?" Well, actually, yes, I am a libertarian. I'm a true libertarian, though. I'm not a Gary Johnson-esque libertarian. So I'm gonna play the first part of the video here, and we're gonna go over this. So let's take a look.
Gary Johnson, the so-called small government libertarian, wants to give the government the power to forcibly inject your children.
Okay, so going over this first, since I don't have a since I don't have a screen recorder or a camera today, it's gonna be a little difficult for me because I will be producing by myself. There's probably about to be annoying noise. No, never mind. Okay. So anyway, back to what I was saying. It's going to be really hard for me to be doing all of the editing, and, well, not editing, but all of the basic functionalities for the live stream on my own. So bear with me here. Okay, so this first part of the video says, in reversal, Governor Gary Johnson now supports mandatory vaccination. If you don't know anything about libertarianism, it's being, as Gary Johnson once put it, it's being fiscally conservative while socially progressive. Meaning, we're going to be, very at home and very traditional with our ways, but with social issues, we'll be more accepting of them, such as gay marriage or something of that nature. Now, Gary Johnson, after I watched this video and analyzed it a couple times, Gary Johnson is not exactly the libertarian that he made himself out to be during the libertarian live debate on Fox Business moderated by John Stossel. I watched the whole couple hours of it, and I must say that I wasn't a fan of really anybody. It would have been nice to see John McAfee step up a little bit more and stop being so, per se, not hypothetical. It's really hard to explain it, but you'd have to watch the video for yourself. I'll probably put the link to that debate in the description of the stream here, so you guys can go ahead and take a look at that. John McAfee would essentially be a Donald Trump if Donald Trump was essentially high 24/7. Yeah, I liked Austin Peterson, but he's just too much of a young face, and he doesn't really have any political experience. Now, Gary Johnson, being the former governor of New Mexico, hence made him kind of one of the better choices for the Libertarian Party to choose as their candidate. So anyway, back to being libertarian. What it essentially means is having a live and let live attitude, according to John McAfee, which I totally agree with. It's basically like, you can do whatever you want as long as it doesn't affect me, and I'm going to do whatever I want as long as it doesn't affect you. So, back to the video.
At gunpoint, if necessary. That's not libertarian. You see, there's something called the non-aggression principle.
Okay, so speaking about the non-aggression principle, it's the little picture here that Watson put up here was a moral stance which asserts that aggression is inherently illegitimate, no matter if the result of those actions is damaging, beneficial, or neutral to the owner, when they are against the owner's free will and interfere with his right to self-determination or the principle of self-ownership. In contrast to pacifism, the non-aggression principle does not prelude violence used in self-defense or defense of others. Many supporters argue that the non-aggression principle opposes such policies as victimless crime laws, taxation, and military drafts. The non-aggression principle, is the foundation of most present-day libertarian philosophies. Which is essentially the non-aggression principle, guys, is essentially the live and let live attitude. You can do whatever you want, but we can't force you to have our ideas. So with him supporting mandatory vaccinations with children, which I don't know if I would support or not, considering the fact that children in schools tend to be very, very just like sick all the time, and it's easy way for germs to spread all the time. I don't know who else is watching. Oh my gosh. And, well, Alex is watching from Bloomington. Alex, hey man, thanks for watching. It's only you and me right now, so yeah, just gonna keep talking just to test out the stream. Anyway, so back to what I was saying here about Gary Johnson. He doesn't really follow the non-aggression principle, which is essentially the foundation of libertarian principles. So I'm probably repeating myself a lot here, but it's live and it's my first time, so give me a break. So let's continue with the video. But basically, by Gary Johnson supporting mandatory gun laws and, as Paul Joseph Watson exaggerated, at gunpoint, that's not exactly libertarian.
Gary, don't know if you've heard of it. Yeah, it's basically the bedrock of libertarian values. Might be worth Googling. During a recent CNBC interview, Johnson said he was open to supporting a carbon tax.
Well, I do think that climate change is occurring.
Let's see here. Okay, so Gary Johnson believes that climate change is occurring. I don't know what to think about the climate change thing. Obviously, everything that happened to the ozone layer was because of us. So things like hairspray, things like car exhaust and fumes and radioactive things coming from nuclear blah 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 blah. Anything you can imagine that's happening to the ozone layer, it's all because of us. And because of that, you know, things such as skin cancer tend to be more prevalent in today's society. Actually, my grandmother just had a basal carcinoma on her nose, and there was a mole that she had to get removed because of it. So, you know, it just goes to show you that anybody can really get the skin cancer without trying, essentially. And so, obviously, prepare yourself for what lies ahead for the future. But
then it is man-caused. One of the proposals that I think is a very libertarian proposal, and I'm just open to this, is taxing carbon emission.
Okay. Taxing carbon emission. So the whole basis of libertarianism, which is small government, big people, you're taking that away by taxing. It doesn't make any sense. I understand if you're trying to do it for a good cause, but what is the point? What are you going to do with that money? You can't just take the money that you took from the carbon emissions tax and make a big blanket and put it up in the ozone layer. It doesn't work that way, Gary. I don't know what you're going to do. Are you going to try and take that money for funding and put it into, I don't know, say like, you could say put it into a program that develops electronic cars instead of gas or diesel powered ones? I don't know. Let's keep going.
Right, so the so-called small government libertarian wants to implement a massive government taxing scheme.
Okay, so as Paul Joseph Watson just said, the small government libertarian wants to implement a large taxing scheme. It's just, that's not libertarianism, and it's kind of upsetting to see.
Enforced by a gigantic, onerous, centralized bureaucracy. That's not libertarian. The so-called small government libertarian wants to give the government the power to shut down bakeries that refuse to make gay wedding cakes.
Okay, so we're going to get into a discussion about this. This one's all about how this thing with Gary Johnson, okay, he was doing a debate, the libertarian televised debate, the first one of its kind, with Austin Peterson and John McAfee, like I said, moderated by John Stossel. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. But the fact was that John Stossel asked a question, and it was regarding, I think it was regarding businesses and discrimination. If there was a Jewish bakery, would they have to bake a Nazi wedding cake? And Gary believed that yes, they should have to do that, essentially against their free will. To me, that's not libertarianism. Libertarianism is about doing what's good for you and then living in harmony with others. So Gary, you can't just do that. You cannot do that.
Violating his own Libertarian Party's platform.
Okay, so I'm going to read the Libertarian Party Platform, Section 2, which was adopted in May 2008. Only reason I'm saying this is because you guys can't see it, so I'll just read it off for you. So, a free and competitive market allocates resources in the most efficient manner. Each person has the right to offer goods and services to others on the free market, yes. The only proper role of government in the economic realm is to protect property rights, I can't even pronounce this, adjudicate disputes, and provide a legal framework in which voluntary trade is protected. All efforts by government to redistribute the wealth or to control or manage trade are improper in a free society. So basically, Gary Johnson, by saying that a Jewish bakery should bake a Nazi wedding cake, is going against his party's platform. Section 2, to be exact.
That's not libertarian.
So the Jewish baker should have to bake the cake for the Nazi wedding.
That would be my contention, yes.
Whoa. Okay, so you can't see the video here, but Austin Peterson is on the left, Gary Johnson's on the right. John Stossel asks the question, so you think that a Jewish baker should have to bake a Nazi wedding cake? And Gary agrees with that. That's not libertarian.
So-called libertarian supports Black Lives Matter.
Oh my god, here we go again. Everybody wants to hop on the Black Lives Matter bandwagon. See, I don't have a problem with Black Lives Matter cause. The cause, I guess it's essentially bringing a spotlight to the fact of the matter is that I can't even talk right now. My words are so scrambled. I'm sorry, guys, but Black Lives Matter is bringing to spotlight a problem in the black community. Is there this problem in the white community or the Latino community or the Asian community? Not exactly. Now, black-on-black violence is one of the biggest contributors to gun deaths in the United States. I'll come up with the facts later on, but keep that in mind. How does 13% of the population make up for 50% of the homicide rates? That's not my fact, that's according to the FBI. And libertarians are, well, a solid portion of us are pro-gun, which is also good. So when Gary's talking about the Black Lives Matter issue, he's not only turning off the conservative libertarian, but he is turning on liberals and leftists in general, specifically Black Lives Matter supporters. That's a big no-no, Gary. You can't just cater to one group and then talk about it forever, and then you're going to lose your other interest group. You cannot do that. That's how you will lose the spot of the presidency.
A group whose public platform has all the specific hallmarks of Marxism.
Black Lives Matter platform is a Marxist horror show. That's an article by Walter Hudson. It was published on August 2nd, 2016. Black Lives Matter is a Marxist horror show. Enough said.
The exact opposite of libertarianism. That's not libertarian. Johnson supports the TPP, a globalist trade deal that even Hillary Clinton had to back away from.
Would you withdraw from the TPP on your first day in office and unconditionally rule out its passage in any form?
I'm being told that the Trans-Pacific Partnership would, in fact, advance free trade, and so I would support that document.
TPP is not just big government, it's global government on steroids. That's not libertarian. He also wants to admit tens of thousands of Muslim migrants into America.
Okay, here I had to go through that part because I don't know exactly the most about TPP. I'm not going to lie to you. But another problem that our candidates are facing today is taking in Syrian refugees. Hillary Clinton says that her plan is to take in 10,000 Syrian refugees, then 65,000, and so on and so on. The problem with that is that Syrian refugees have not proved good for all of Western Europe. We took a look at places such as Norway, Sweden, Germany, France, and even Britain. You have these people who have never experienced or tasted westernized culture. Well, they have tasted Western culture, I'll give them that, but not in the way that we here have tasted Western culture. Western culture is giving women equal rights because they are our equals, accepting things such as homosexuality and, you know, the LGBTQAI, HIJK, LMNOP, all of that stuff. I'm not going to call it nonsense. I'm not going to call it anything. So accepting LGBTQ, homosexuality, giving women equal rights, and just anything that goes against Sharia law or anything taught in the Quran. So you look at countries like France, where you have attacks in Paris and Nice. You look at Great Britain, where they have a giant migrant issue, where there are over 180-something Sharia law courts in the country to, compensate or to make the new quote-unquote migrants or refugees feel at home. That's the problem, is that if they want to feel at home, then let them stay in their countries. It's as simple as that, guys. Because they're going to be leaving their shit show third world countries to come to our first world countries and make them shit show third world countries. You can look at Sweden and Germany for examples. Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel decides to let in a bunch of refugees. Hungary decides to let them in, and you can see what happens from there. Sweden becoming the rape capital of the world, and it was also predicted that Sweden will become a third world country by the year 2030. So Sweden, you have 14 years to shape up and kick the refugees out. I hope you make the right choice. So going back here, we all know what Donald Trump's policy is regarding the refugees and illegal immigration, but we'll also take a look at this part of the video.
Because that worked out great for Germany, didn't it? Terror attacks virtually every week, mass molestations of women, rampant criminality.
This is what happens when you let people who have never experienced Western culture before into Western society. It's very unnerving to watch. And it makes me upset to consider the fact that a presidential candidate that I thought I supported supports this.
Sounds like a violation of the non-aggression principle to me. And that's not libertarian. As governor of New Mexico, Johnson, the so-called fiscal libertarian, inherited a debt of $1.8 billion and left a debt of $4.6 billion.
Okay, so I'm no economist, I'm not economist, nor am I a professional accountant or anything like that nature. But one of the things I can say positively about Gary Johnson was that when he was the governor of New Mexico, his state's unemployment rate had it had plummeted from a relatively decent percentage to a lower percentage. So I guess that is one of the ways that he could have contributed to success in America, or at least in New Mexico at the time.
That's not libertarian. Gary Johnson isn't a libertarian. He's a social justice warrior posing as a libertarian.
He really is a social justice warrior posing as a libertarian, and we're about to see that in the next couple seconds when he talks about illegal immigrants. He's going to keep calling them undocumented. Gary, whatever you decide to call them, they're people in the United States that are undocumented, illegal, aliens, and they don't come here, as Paul Joseph Watson says, as Gary Johnson says, for the jobs and the better lifestyle. The only reason they come here is for that better lifestyle. How do they get the better lifestyle? Off of welfare and paying Americans.
He's a phony. He even gets triggered like an SJW when people use the term illegal immigrant.
Millions of adult illegal immigrants who are here in the country.
Undocumented, by the way. If you use the term illegal immigrants, that is very incendiary to our Hispanic population here.
Okay, I'm Hispanic. I'm a part of the Hispanic population. I'm not triggered by illegal immigrant. I'm not. Let's take a look.
Here in this country.
Why is that?
It just is. It just is.
It just is. You're a 60-something-year-old white man that doesn't know anything about what goes on in the mind of a Hispanic. Yes, you may have been governor of a Hispanic border state for a couple of years, but you'll never know what really goes on inside of our minds unless we tell you. And I don't think anybody's asking you to voice for us. Just saying.
Just so that you know. Just so that you know and you don't have to use that term.
But isn't the term accurate in the sense that they entered the country, they immigrated to the country illegally?
Yes, it is accurate. They came here illegally, just as, as the migrants coming in illegally into Europe.
So they are...
They came into this country because they couldn't get in legally.
If you can't get in legally to the country, then don't come in at all. Accept the fact and move on with your life.
And the jobs existed.
Okay, only a small fraction of the jobs existed. They're also here for the free healthcare. You have things such as anchor babies to deal with, where if you don't know what an anchor baby is, it's if parents of a different country have a baby in the United States. The baby is technically considered a citizen of the United States as a part of, I don't remember which amendment it was, that states that you're a born citizen of the United States when you're born inside the borders or a territory such as Puerto Rico or Guam. We have that problem because the United States says, oh, well, the baby's a national citizen, or naturalized citizen, I should say. Not even naturalized citizen, sorry, a born citizen of the United States, and you can't exactly deport the parents because the baby isn't taken care of. Yeah, it's hard to deal with.
And you or I would have done the same thing. And we're talking about now.
I don't know if I would have done the same thing, to be honest.
Now, coming from New Mexico, a population with 48% Hispanic, how's the crackdown on 11 million undocumented workers going to work?
It's not going to work. I will agree with him on that. It's going to be very, very difficult. He's going to start talking in a couple seconds about how we'd have to go door to door checking people's papers. It's going to be a really, really rough to deport 11 million illegal immigrants or undocumented aliens. It is going to be very difficult to do that. I will agree with you, Gary Johnson. But the problem is your policy, Gary Johnson's policy on immigration, at least with Mexico, is what I can tell from what my reading says. Gary Johnson says that we will allow these undocumented or illegals into the country, and they'll apply for work visas. Most of them will get accepted for the work visas unless they have prior convictions in their native country. And then with those work visas, they will work, and then they will go back home to their countries, and then they can come back and work with their visas. And if they do so to choose to become citizens, then they can become naturalized by taking the test.
Out. It's going to be dragging people from their homes. That's how it's going to work out. It's going to be checking your papers house to house. And I got to tell you, what Donald Trump is saying regarding immigration could not be more incendiary. It is insulting to me coming from New Mexico.
Isn't it, though, unfair to compare, let's say, everything that Donald Trump's saying to simply using the term illegal immigrant?
Yes, it is.
I mean, if I were
undocumented, it just is. It just is. Just so that you know.
Well, just so that you know, Gary, policing language and censoring words in the name of pandering to political correctness.
That's the problem with Gary Johnson, too, is that he's so desperate for votes, considering the fact that this is the largest acceptance rate, or approval rating, that a libertarian has ever gotten in a presidential election before the presidential race. Gary Johnson, I think, is polling at 7.3%, or maybe even in the 10%. I don't know how much he has right now at this exact moment, but I do know that you do need 15% to get on the televised debates. And when he campaigns all the time with Jill Steins for letting third parties onto the platform, onto the debating stage for TV, I mean, the Green Party it's liberals and leftists on steroids, everybody. You really want to hear Jill Steins interrupt Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton? Actually, I wouldn't mind either one of them getting interrupted, because I'm going to end on that note, folks. I'm going to take a look at this stream and see how it went. I cannot end by saying who I now decide to vote for, because if I vote for Donald Trump, I'll be shamed by my family. For having conservative beliefs in a essentially progressive family, because mostly Hispanics are Democratic. Can't vote for Hillary Clinton because she's a liar. I never planned on voting for Hillary Clinton in the first place. Can't vote for Gary Johnson anymore. I'll have to look at the Constitution Party, but even then, that's a pretty piss poor choice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end it on that note. If you did tune in, shout out to Alex for actually being the only person to tune in. Thanks for coming, and stop by sometime soon. The next stream should be coming out in the next week or so we'll see you then.